Hey guys, who's hungry? Now, I love to eat. There's no shame. I think food is beautiful. And recently I saw something that made me think of breakfast specifically. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I went down a rabbit hole of American breakfasts versus British breakfasts. And this has been my life for the last week. Who does it better? Who does it worse? Why do we eat what we eat? I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So now we're gonna talk about it and hopefully get it out of my brain. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 8 years. So I'm not quite British. I've been here 8 years. I'm not quite American, but I've spent a lot of my life in the US. So today I'm going to act as a referee and we are talking about breakfast. Leave a comment down below. What is your ultimate breakfast? Your dream breakfast versus what you actually typically eat. Anywho, let's do this. I'm hungry. So without further ado, let's go. So to begin, let's talk about the American breakfast. Now, the typical American breakfast has a rule. It needs to be sweet. But that can take so many forms. You could have big, fluffy American pancakes with syrup. Or nice, fluffy, crispy waffles with syrup. Or its closely related cousin, French toast with, you guessed it, syrup. I actually had waffles the other day and went to Tesco and bought Canadian maple syrup. What a treat! If you don't want a hot breakfast, may I interest you in a chocolatey American cereal. Although, to be fair, most of the non-chocolate cereals are quite high in sugar themselves. Need breakfast on the go? May I offer you a pop-tart? Kind of this, but not really. Now, this actually started off this whole deep dive into breakfasts. I saw this at Sainsbury's in their American section. So this is a knockoff pop-tart called Toastums Pop-Ups. In Canada, before high school or anytime I was in the US and I needed a quick breakfast, I would have a Pop-Tart.
Chocolate chip Pop-Tarts!
Chocolate chips front to back, like a cookie, wrapped around a gooey chocolatey middle.
They're essentially a toaster pastry with some type of filling. So these ones are s'mores. That was usually the one that I got of like the actual branded Pop-Tart. And while technically these are pre-cooked, you can just have them cold, it's kind of assumed that you will put them in the toaster to toast them. But honestly, when I was in high school and I was running late, I would just grab one of these and eat them on the go. So a package comes with two. 2 Pop-Tarts is 340 calories with 33 grams of sugar. Yum! This is like ultimate convenience, right? Like, oh wow, this really brings back memories. I'm 15 again. Also, here's the thing. The crust is like the bit that was always the worst, and sometimes I would just get rid of it. Cheers everyone to a sugary breakfast. Oh my God. I think I'm having an existential crisis. This tastes exactly like I remember my childhood. Having a s'more Pop-Tart, even though these are the knockoff ones, it tastes in my mind exactly the same. Oh my God. I'm gonna get a sugar high in a hot second. Would you like some more examples of breakfast items that you can order in America? Buckle up. May I interest you in this breakfast wrap from Dunkin' Donuts. Every country I feel like has a breakfast wrap, right? Like maybe some sort of sausage, a little bit of cheese, egg in a wrap. Sounds fair, right? Well, Dunkin' does theirs in a pancake with a side of syrup. Yes. When we're talking about breakfast in America, we have to talk about Denny's. Denny's is a huge chain, breakfast chain, all day breakfast, some insane food naturally. How about the Denny's salted caramel banana pancake slam? So this includes 2 buttermilk pancakes with vanilla cream, bananas, and salted caramel, served with eggs, hash browns, plus bacon, or sausage. It's a work of art. Denny's also offers this monstrosity, the strawberry stuffed French toast slam. So that is 4 slices of brioche French toast stuffed with sweet cream cheese filling and topped with strawberries, strawberry sauce, and powdered sugar. Now, depending on what add-ons and things you choose, you're looking around 1,300 calories. I love it. When researching American breakfast fast food options, right? Of course, these are fast foods, these are restaurants, people aren't making that thing at home. A lot of breakfast sandwiches, like the Dunkin' Donuts thing, but in a pancake. So Dairy Queen does a breakfast sandwich that is a bun with egg, cheese, bacon, or sausage with a side of a hash brown. This sandwich, you're looking at around 1,200 calories. You would need to play cricket for 4 hours straight to burn off this breakfast. Now that we've talked about some American breakfast options, we need to talk about British breakfast foods. Now, the first thing that comes to mind for me is a full English or a fry up. So we're talking eggs, sausage, bacon, beans. I don't really care about the fried tomatoes, and honestly, I don't really care about the fried mushrooms. Toast. I would like some hash browns. A lot of British people say, oh, hash browns are American. They're delicious and they should be included. Sometimes you'll have black pudding. I can take it or leave it. Now, no matter what your particular fry up looks like, it's meaty, it's savory. It is literally the definition, the opposite of sweet. And here lies, in my opinion, the biggest difference between the US and the UK, savory versus sweet. Now, I had a little bit of a Google and I was looking at cafes, like local cafes that do breakfast or do like a fast breakfast option just to see, you know, pancakes, waffles, what do they have going on? I'm just curious. This one of their sort of main breakfast items, you could get a fried egg, bacon, sausage, black pudding, hash browns, grilled tomatoes, baked beans, toast, tea, or coffee. So a pretty standard, nice looking fry up. If you wanted a faster option, one of their sort of like quick breakfast things, you could get ham, eggs, chips, and beans. All savory, not a waffle in sight. Even cereals here in the UK I find tend to be much less sweet. Even like looking at them, you're like, oh, that's like a chocolatey cereal. But when you actually read the ingredients and you actually look at the box, you see reduced sugar everywhere. Now, of course, most British people are not having a fry up before they catch the train to work, as much as I'm sure they might enjoy it. So I asked you guys, what do you normally have for breakfast? Not your ultimate breakfast, what do you normally have? Loads of Brits said cereal, crunchy nut was one example, but some sort of cereal, maybe with some toast, maybe a cup of tea. Some people also said crumpets with butter. Now that feels very British. Couple of crumpets in the morning, again, perhaps with a tea. Someone said cereal typically during the week, and then on the weekend, toast. How decadent. Someone also mentioned having like your straightforward cereal type breakfast, but if they weren't working, they might actually do their own fry up. So we know that British people, while a fry up is available, and who doesn't love a fry up, they're typically not having that every day. That's fair to say. But we have to also say the same thing about Americans. What are Americans typically eating? Because yes, a Grand Slam at Denny's is insane, but they're obviously not having that every day. Now, one poll I saw had eggs as America's #1 breakfast food. On this poll as well, donuts came last. RIP. But the fact that donuts are listed at all in a poll about breakfast foods really makes you stop and wonder. I found another poll asking Americans what their favorite breakfast food item was, and guess what? Eggs wins again, which really kind of puts a dent in our Americans only eat horrible sugar breakfast foods hypothesis. Now, while I was researching this, doing a bit of a Google, you know what I mean? Just looking on the internet and looking at these polls and thinking about it, just thinking about breakfast food, which is just wonderful. I love breakfast. One thing that stood out to me is that eggs are often served in a variety of American breakfasts. You can have eggs with waffles. You can have eggs with pancakes. You can have eggs with pancakes and waffles and French toast. Like we saw with some of the Denny's like Grand Slam things, right? You're getting eggs, yeah, and eggs are good, you know, good source of protein. Eggs are a good breakfast food, but you're getting eggs with cream-filled brioche French toast. So if we take these polls at face value and eggs are supreme, perhaps Americans are healthier than Brits give them credit for. But then when you think about the eggs accompanying French toast and 3 stacks of sugary pancakes, maybe not. Now, what about me? How can I make this all about myself? I know for me, I continued my personal tradition of having cereal for breakfast. That's what I would have back in Canada. When I wasn't having a pop-tart, right? And when I got a little bit older and pop-tarts kind of were like a bit too much, I would have cereal with cut up fruit. Nothing too crazy. I know that's what my mom has to this day and has had for like the last 40 years is cereal with some cut up fruit. So when I moved to England, I continued that tradition here. Granted, it took me a while. It took me a while to find a cereal that I really liked. Not to be offensive, but here we go. I find a lot of the cereals in the UK are quite bland, and that is probably the reduced sugar, right? Growing up with really sugary cereals in the 90s has altered my taste buds. So it took me a while to find a cereal that I actually liked here in the UK because I did find a lot of them were quite plain. The Weetabix and the like. But Crunchy Nut is so good. So for a long time, I would have some Crunchy Nut with like blueberries and strawberries thrown in before I caught my bus to go to work. I don't really have breakfast much anymore. I've kind of moved away from that. I know some people are like, oh my God, not having breakfast is so unhealthy. It's fine. I just feel like I don't really need it. However, I have a new tradition. Every time I find myself in Gatwick Airport waiting to board a flight to go back to Canada for a visit, I always have a full English and maybe a pint. It's an airport, time doesn't matter. So America versus Britain. Who wins when it comes to breakfast? I gotta give the best breakfast award to the UK. However, I think the stereotype that Americans only eat sugary breakfast is not quite right. There's a grain of truth there, right? There's definitely a grain of truth there. But to stereotype the entire nation as having a Denny's Grand Slam, we know that's just not true. Even if it would be pretty awesome to have Denny's before work every day. I think largely Americans are like Brits. You have these huge, wonderful breakfast options at restaurants, whether that is some sort of crazy Denny's Grand Slam versus a full, greasy fry-up. But most people are not having that before they go to work. They're having cereal, they're having toast, maybe some eggs and toast, cup of tea, coffee, who knows. But I do think when it comes to all of the breakfast options available, I much prefer a fry-up. I much prefer savory over sweet. I don't want pancakes with my eggs and bacon. Okay, I want toast. I want beans. I do want hash browns though, because those are incredible. At the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of boring cereal eaters. Maybe I'll do my own poll. Keep an eye out on my community tab, you know, like the community tab thing, there's like polls. I'm gonna do my own poll because I bet, even though we make fun of Americans for having sugary stuff and Brits think that a full English is better, it is. I think most of us are having very boring cereal toast type breakfasts. Let's get real, right? You gotta catch the train before work. You don't have time. Anywho, thank you so much for joining me on this mini rant hypothesis that guess what? We're all just eating cereal. If you would like to watch more content, which would be totally awesome, why not check out this one on ways that I sound like a British person now. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!